Lieutenant Carter Hale never liked crowded places. After serving 15 years in the Human Coalition's Engineering Corps, all he wanted was peace. That's why he moved to Durex 9, a dusty old mining planet where nothing much happened, except for the strange alien markets. On that morning, Carter walked into the underground bazaar with one goal: buy some scrap parts for his water recycler. He had no idea he was walking into the most unusual day of his life. The bazaar was filled with alien voices, glowing signs, and strange smells. Creatures from dozens of species shouted, bargained, and traded. Carter pushed past a group of six-eyed traders and stepped into a narrow tent filled with strange tech. As he looked around, a short creature with blue skin and 3 fingers waved him over. "Looking for helpers? Companions? We have excellent models. Very rare." Carter squinted. On a platform behind the creature stood several figures, each inside a glass pod. Their faces were hidden by soft lighting, and each pod had a small tag: Item 39, Item 40, and so on. He pointed at one. "Are these robots? AI models?" The blue-skinned trader grinned, showing small, sharp teeth. "Very lifelike, extremely responsive, emotional design, perfect for human interaction. Bid starts low." Carter scratched his chin. He'd been looking for a service bot to help maintain his workshop. These models were unusual, but if they were advanced robotics, they might be worth checking out. His eyes fell on Item 43. She stood perfectly still, but there was something peaceful in her expression. Her long, silver-white hair was braided behind her shoulders. Her skin had a soft lavender tone. She looked almost real. Carter muttered to himself, "Impressive design." The trader smiled wider. "Then we start the bid?" Carter shrugged. "Sure. I'll go for 500 credits." There was a sudden loud beep. "Sold," the trader announced. Before Carter could respond, the glass pod of Item 43 opened with a soft hiss. The girl inside stepped out slowly, her soft eyes scanning the room until they met Carter's. "And then," she smiled. "You chose me," she said gently, bowing her head. "I am honored, human." Carter blinked. "Wait, what?" The girl walked forward and held out her hand. "I am Elia of Urathi. I am yours now. You are my chosen." Carter pulled his hand away. "Hold on! I thought you were an android or something. I didn't mean to buy a companion?" Elia tilted her head, confused. "But I am happy. You're human. That's all that matters." The trader came up behind Carter and handed him a small tablet. "Ownership contract. You sign here." Carter's voice grew sharp. "I'm not signing anything. I didn't come here to buy a person." Elia blinked. "You didn't mean to choose me?" "No, I came here for tech parts. This is a mistake." The trader's smile faded. "No refunds." Carter glared. "Then take her back." Elia gently stepped forward. "Please, don't reject me. I've trained for years to be ready. My people allowed me to leave only if a human chose me. You're the first I've met." Carter looked at her again. She didn't seem scared. She didn't act like someone being forced. In fact, she looked hopeful. "Wait," he said, lowering his voice. "You wanted this?" Elia nodded. "Yes. The Urathi believe only the kindest souls in the galaxy are human. Our legends say a human's choice is sacred. I dreamed my whole life that one would choose me." Carter stared at her, stunned. "You were raised to hope a human would take you away?" "Yes," she said, "and you did." Carter sighed and ran a hand through his hair. This was not what he planned today. But leaving her here didn't feel right either. She seemed genuine, peaceful, and maybe even excited. "All right," he said quietly. "Let's talk. Away from here." Elia's face lit up like a sunrise. She followed Carter out of the tent, her steps light and graceful. They walked through the dusty streets until they reached his workshop on the edge of the bazaar. Inside, it was cluttered, but safe, half-built machines, tools, and blueprints scattered everywhere. Carter poured himself a cup of water. "Okay, Elia. Start from the beginning. Who are you, really?" Elia sat gently on a crate and folded her hands. "I'm from Urath, a planet hidden behind the Luvian Nebula. My people believe in harmony, tradition, and wisdom. For generations, we've admired humans from afar. Some of us are trained to become companions, not slaves, but partners. It's a sacred tradition. If chosen by a human, it means destiny." Carter leaned on the table, listening. "And the market?" That seemed shady. Elia nodded slowly. "Yes, the auction system was. Not what I expected. I was supposed to meet a human in a ceremonial setting, but the elders said markets attract more attention, and they wanted to test if the human would choose with their heart, not with knowledge." Carter raised an eyebrow. "So, they tricked me into choosing you?" "I'm sorry," Elia said softly, "but you did choose, and I'm glad." Carter sighed. "This is insane," Elia smiled. "But it's also fate." He looked at her again. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't angry. She was truly happy. And somehow she saw this as a beginning, not a mistake. "Fine," Carter said. "You can stay for now, but we figure this out together. No ownership, no contracts." Elia bowed her head again. "As you wish, Carter. I'm yours. By choice, not by force." Carter took a deep breath. Whatever this was, it wasn't going to be simple. But for the first time in years, he felt something he hadn't felt since the war. Purpose. And maybe, just maybe, he wasn't alone anymore. It had only been one day since he brought her back from the alien market, but already, her presence was changing everything in his life. His workshop, once quiet and full of metal clanking and lonely thoughts, now echoed with gentle footsteps, soft humming, and the curious voice of a girl from another world. She didn't act like someone who had been bought. She acted like someone who had been set free. That morning, Carter found her standing near his workbench, studying one of his old hover tools. She was barefoot, her silver-white hair braided neatly behind her shoulders, and she wore a soft blue robe that shimmered in the dusty sunlight. "You're up early," Carter said, picking up a wrench. "I couldn't sleep," Elia replied, smiling. "There is too much to see, too much to learn." Carter sipped his coffee. "You're not scared about being on a different planet away from your people?" Elia turned to him, her lavender eyes calm. "Why would I be scared? I'm with a human. I am safe." Carter frowned. "You keep saying that. Why do your people trust humans so much?" Elia stepped closer and sat on a crate. "It is in our stories. Hundreds of cycles ago, your kind helped us during the galactic storm. While other species ignored our distress calls, a small human ship came and saved one of our colonies. They asked for nothing in return. Since then, we have believed that humans carry noble hearts." Carter scratched his head. "That's ancient history. Most people don't even know about the galactic storm." "But we remember," Elia said gently. "That is why the companion ceremony exists. Our leaders said that if a Urathi girl is chosen by a human, freely and kindly, it means she has found someone with a good soul. That is our way of testing fate." Carter sat down across from her. "But the way I chose you, that wasn't right. I didn't know what I was doing." "You didn't choose me out of power or greed," Elia said softly. "You were confused, but when you saw I was real, you didn't walk away. That matters more than you think." Carter looked at her closely. She wasn't pretending. There was no fear, no sadness, only hope. He finally spoke, his voice low. "So, what do you want now?" Elia's smile widened. I want to stay with you, learn from you, help you. My training as a companion includes many things. Languages, machines, even healing. I can be useful. Carter raised an eyebrow. You know how to fix machines? I studied Earth technology through our archives, she said proudly. Would you like me to help with your recycler? He blinked. Sure. Together they walked to the broken water recycler in the corner. Carter expected her to stand by and watch, but Elia knelt beside the machine and removed the side panel. With smooth, practiced hands, she identified the coolant line problem in under a minute. You're serious? Carter muttered. You really were trained for this. She looked up and grinned. Would I lie to you, Carter? For the rest of the day, they worked side by side. She was quiet but focused, asking intelligent questions and handling tools with care. By the afternoon, the recycler was fully functional again, something Carter had been struggling with for 3 weeks. Impressive, he admitted. Wiping sweat from his forehead, Elia bowed slightly. Thank you. I am happy to be useful. As the sun set over the desert outside, Carter offered her some ration stew and sat across the table in silence. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel lonely. But something still bothered him. Elia, he said, why was your people's tradition handled through an illegal auction? That market wasn't a ceremony. It was shady, dangerous. Her smile faded a little. You are right. It wasn't supposed to be like that. The Urathi leadership had disagreements. Some elders believed that true human selection could only happen by chance, without explanation. So they arranged for some of us to appear in different markets across the stars. If a human chose one of us, even unknowingly, that would be fate. Carter leaned back. So I was part of an experiment? In a way, Elia said softly. But I don't care about the experiment. I care that you didn't treat me like an object. You saw me as a person. Carter nodded slowly. Still, something about that market felt wrong. I saw other beings there who didn't look happy. I think some were actually being sold against their will. Elia grew serious. That is possible. Not all markets follow the rules. Some may be using the companion auction system as a cover for other things. Carter's mind started turning. He didn't like the sound of that. He'd been a soldier once, and his instincts told him there was more going on. I think I need to go back, he said. Ask some questions. Quietly. I will come with you, Elia said quickly. No, Carter said firmly. It could be dangerous. I'm not afraid, she replied, and I know how to protect myself. Carter raised an eyebrow. Really? You know how to fight? Elia looked at him seriously. Yes, I may be trained as a companion, but I am not weak. There was something in her eyes that surprised Carter. Strength, confidence, calm power. Okay, he said after a moment. But we stay low. No attention. Elia smiled again. Understood, Carter. They stood together at the doorway, looking out at the glowing market lights in the distance. What began as a simple trip for spare parts had turned into something far more complex and far more meaningful. Carter still didn't fully understand who Elia was or why fate had brought them together. But one thing was clear. This was just the beginning. Ever since Elia had told him about her people's ancient belief in human kindness, Carter had felt strange. He still didn't fully understand why fate, or chance, had made him a part of this unusual tradition. But something deeper was bothering him now, that market, those silent faces behind the glass pods, and the strange way that blue-skinned trader smiled. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. Elia, he said as he packed a small energy pistol and scanning tool into a backpack. We're going back to that market, but we move carefully. Elia nodded. I understand. I will follow your lead. She wore a plain brown cloak now, her silver-white hair hidden beneath the hood. The lights from the alien bazaar flickered in the distance, painting the sky in green and orange as they walked under the cover of darkness. Carter and Elia moved through side alleys and empty cargo zones, staying away from crowds. Eventually, they reached the outer edge of the companion auction zone. But something had changed. The entrance was closed. No guards, no traders shouting. The entire area was blocked off with metallic shutters, and a bright red sign blinked in alien. Script Elia translated it aloud. Closed for transport inspection. Temporary relocation in progress. Carter narrowed his eyes. They're moving everything, probably hiding it. They circled around and found a back path through a broken service tunnel. It smelled of rust and oil, but it led straight to the lower storage area of the auction tent. Inside, it was dark and cold. Carter activated his flashlight, revealing rows of empty glass pods, many still open. Wires hung from the ceiling. Tags labeled Item 37 to Item 52 lay scattered on the floor. They cleared it fast, Carter said. Too fast. Suddenly, Elia touched his arm. Look, there. In the corner was one pod that hadn't been cleared. Inside it sat a small, alien girl, eyes wide, looking no older than 10 in human years. She had pale blue skin and thin arms. Her pod was locked. She's still here, Elia whispered. Left behind. Carter rushed to the control panel and tried to open the pod, but it needed a passcode. He quickly pulled out his scanner and connected it to the lock system. A few seconds later, the door hissed open. The girl looked up at him, scared but hopeful. It's okay, Carter said gently. We're not going to hurt you. She nodded slowly. Are you a human? Yes, Carter said. What's your name? Zia, she whispered. They told me I'd go to a new home, but I saw others crying. I didn't want to go. I hid in here when they started moving the others. Carter's jaw tightened. So they were lying. Elia's face was calm but firm. This is not a companion ceremony. This is a cover for something worse. Carter helped Zia out of the pod. You're safe now. We'll get you out of here. They moved toward the exit, but Carter paused near a locked storage crate. Something about it looked strange. He scanned it and found something shocking. Energy cuffs, he said. Mind dampeners. These aren't used in any official Urathi rituals. Elia nodded grimly. These are tools for real slavery. Someone is using the market system as a shield. Suddenly, footsteps echoed from above. Carter grabbed Elia's hand. Move, now! They ducked into the shadows just as two tall alien guards entered the storage area. One of them spoke into a communicator. Sector 7 cleared, one pod missing. Someone's been here. Carter, Elia, and Zia slipped through the maintenance tunnel before the guards noticed. They didn't stop running until they reached a safe spot near Carter's workshop. Inside, Carter secured the doors and turned to Elia. This isn't just your people's ritual anymore. This market is being used to traffic innocent beings, probably across the entire system. Elia nodded, placing her hand gently on Zia's shoulder. This child would have been taken if we hadn't gone back. Zia looked up. What will happen to me now? You'll stay with us, Elia said kindly, until we find your people. Carter paced the floor. We need to expose this operation. There must be records, logs, lists, something. He opened his tablet and searched for nearby communication relays. One old tower near the bazaar still showed a connection to the auction network. It might have a copy of their data. We're going to hit that tower, he said. If we can get proof, we can send it to the Galactic Authority. Elia stepped beside him. I'll go with you. No, Carter said quickly. You stay here and protect Zia. Elia looked into his eyes. And leave you to face it alone? He hesitated. You're not just an engineer anymore, Carter, she said softly. You're part of something bigger now, and so am I. He finally nodded. All right, but we stay sharp. Later that night, they made their way to the communication tower. It was half buried in sand, rusted from age, but still powered. Inside, Carter hacked into the terminal while Elia watched the door. Within minutes, Carter found what he was looking for: shipment schedules, names of buyers, species types, and travel logs. It wasn't just a market. It was a galaxy-wide network. He copied all of it. Suddenly, an alarm blared. "Too late," Carter said. "We've been seen." Blaster fire echoed outside. 2 guards were closing in. Elia raised her hand. Her robe fell back, revealing a sleek silver band around her wrist. With a sharp twist, it extended into a short energy blade. "You can fight?" Carter shouted. "I told you I was trained." With grace and speed, Elia deflected the first guard's attack, disarming him quickly. Carter fired a stun pulse at the second and knocked him out. They escaped into the night, running through back alleys with the data chip safely in Carter's bag. As they reached the workshop, Zia rushed to the door. "You're back!" Carter smiled. "We got what we needed." Elia closed the door and locked it. "Now we send the truth to the stars." And in that moment, Carter realized that what started as a mistake, a bid on a girl he thought was a robot, had become something much greater: a fight for freedom, a mission for justice, and a partnership that might just change the galaxy. Carter Hale stared at the small, glowing data chip in his hand. Everything they needed to expose the illegal market was inside it: names, travel records, payments, even connections to powerful buyers. He placed it carefully into a sealed case and looked across the room at Elia, who was gently putting Zia to bed. The small, blue-skinned girl smiled sleepily as Elia tucked her into a warm blanket. "You're safe now," she whispered, brushing a hand over Zia's forehead. "No one will take you." Carter watched them in silence. He had never asked for this. A rescued alien child in his home, a mysterious alien girl at his side, and a galaxy-spanning crime to investigate. But something inside him had changed. This wasn't just about mistakes anymore. This was about doing what was right. When Zia had drifted off, Elia came and sat beside Carter at the workbench. The glow of the data case reflected softly in her lavender eyes. "We have what we need," she said calmly. "Now what?" "We send it to the Galactic Authority," Carter replied. "There's a communications hub in orbit. I can send a secure packet from the relay station near the mining sector." Elia nodded. "Good. But you should know something before we do this." Carter turned to her. "What is it?" She hesitated, then slowly removed the band from her wrist, the one she had turned into a weapon during their escape. She placed it gently on the table. "I wasn't just trained to be a companion," she said. "I was trained to be a protector, a Urathi guardian." Carter raised an eyebrow. "What does that mean?" "In our culture," Elia explained, "most girls are raised to serve as diplomats, teachers, or caregivers. But a few of us, chosen by the elders, are trained in secret. We learn defense, technology, and how to protect important knowledge. We are told we may one day travel the galaxy to find someone who might help us change it." Carter leaned forward. "So I wasn't just part of a tradition. This was part of a bigger plan." "Yes," Elia said, "but I didn't know it would be you. The market was a test, not just for me, but for you too." He sat back in his chair, stunned. "So I was being watched?" "Only in the beginning," she said. "But after that, everything was real. My choice was mine." Carter rubbed his forehead. "You talk about fate like it's a real thing." Elia smiled gently. "For us, it is." There was a long silence. Outside, the twin moons of Durex 9 rose slowly over the dry hills. Then Carter stood up. "Let's get this data to the relay. If we wait too long, they might erase everything." Elia agreed. They packed the sealed chip, some food rations, and a compact energy pistol. Carter turned to Zia one last time. She'll be okay? He asked. She's safe, Elia said. I set the security system. If anything moves near the workshop, the defense grid will activate. They left quietly, sticking to side roads and dark paths. The relay station was located on the edge of the mining sector, built into a large rock formation. It looked abandoned from the outside, but Carter knew it still had functioning uplink systems. When they reached the entrance, he scanned the panel. Still works, he said. Let's move. Inside, dust covered the walls, but the systems were still online. Carter connected his tablet and began transferring the files. The uplink started glowing. Sending now, he said. Elia stood guard at the door. Her sharp eyes scanned the shadows. We're not alone. Carter looked up. What? I hear. Something. Before he could react, two figures dropped from the ceiling, cloaked in stealth suits. One grabbed Elia, but she spun quickly, kicking him in the chest and flipping him over. The second charged Carter, but Carter pulled out his pistol and fired a stun blast. Elia stood over the first attacker, her hand glowing with energy. Who sent you? She demanded. The figure laughed weakly. You've already lost. They're wiping the records as we speak. No, Carter said, looking at the screen. The files are already 90% sent. You're too late. The attacker reached for a communicator. Stop the upload! But it was done. Data sent.a confirmation beep filled the room. The two attackers were unconscious now, tied and locked in the corner. Carter sat down, breathing hard. That was close, he said. Elia checked his shoulder. You're okay? Yeah, just a bruise. They returned to the workshop just before sunrise. Zia was still asleep, but the defense grid had been triggered once. Someone had tried to open the door, but failed. Carter sat at the table while Elia brought him a warm drink. We did it, he said. Now it's in the authorities' hands. Elia nodded. They will investigate. And when they do, this market will fall. Carter looked at her. You knew this would happen? She smiled gently. Not all of it. But I knew if I found the right human, things would begin to change. He stared at her for a moment, thinking of how his quiet life had suddenly become something more. So what happens now? We wait, Elia said, and we prepare. Because if they come back for revenge, we need to be ready. Carter nodded. Then we train, and we protect Zia. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like a lost soldier or a lonely engineer. He felt like he had a purpose, like he was part of something good. As the sun rose over the red hills of Durex 9, Carter and Elia stood side by side, watching the light break across the land. What had started as a mistake at a market had now become a mission, and it was far from over. Carter woke before dawn, the pale light of Durex 9 filtering through the dusty window of his workshop. The peaceful quiet was a sharp contrast to the storm of thoughts racing through his mind. The Galactic Authority had received the data chip. That was good news, but Carter knew it wouldn't be enough to end the illegal market. Not quickly. Powerful people were involved, people who wouldn't give up easily. He sat at the table where Elia and Zia were already waiting. Elia's calm lavender eyes met his. We can't wait, she said. If the criminals suspect us, they'll disappear. Or worse. Carter nodded slowly. We need to act, but we can't do it alone. Elia smiled faintly. There are others, beings trapped in the market, waiting for a chance. Carter thought of the hidden pods, the scared eyes of Zia. We need a plan. Together they began reaching out. Elia used her knowledge of alien languages to send secret messages through hidden communication channels. Slowly, replies came. Back, messages from other captives, trapped workers, and even some former slaves who had escaped. One by one, they found hope. Carter and Alea arranged a secret meeting at an abandoned mining station outside the city. When the night came, a small group gathered in the shadowy hall. Humans, Urathi, and other alien species who wanted freedom. Among them was a tall reptilian named Raxar, who once worked in the market's cargo bay. His knowledge of the layout would be crucial. "We have only one chance," Raxar said, his voice low and rough. "The market's power core is in the center. If we can shut it down, all the security systems will go dark." Carter nodded. "Then we strike fast. Disable the guards and free everyone." Elia pulled out her energy blade. "I will lead the front. My training is for this." Carter smiled faintly. "Then let's make history." The next night, they moved under the cover of darkness. Wearing dark clothes and masks, the group slipped through the maze of alleyways toward the market. Inside, the usual chaos was missing. The market was quieter than normal, suspiciously so. "Stay close," Carter whispered. "We don't know what traps they've set." Elia led the way, moving like a shadow. She knew the layout well: the hidden corridors, the silent alarms, the guard patrols. The group reached the heart of the market, a large chamber glowing with bright white light. In the center was the power core, a massive sphere of glowing energy that powered the entire facility. "We have to disable it," Carter said. Raxar connected his device to the control panel, starting a countdown to shut down the core. Suddenly, alarms blared. "Caught!" one of the captives whispered. The sound of boots echoed rapidly as guards rushed toward them. Elia raised her energy blade and moved forward with grace and strength. Blaster bolts flew past her as she deflected and struck down enemies with precise strikes. Carter fired his stun pistol, taking down guards one by one. Raxar worked furiously on the control panel. 5 seconds, he shouted. The group fought desperately, holding off waves of attackers. Then, darkness. The power core shut down. The market went silent. All lights died. Security systems failed. Doors unlocked. Freedom. The captives, hidden in cages and pods, began to stir. Some cried. Some smiled. Some hugged each other. Elia moved through the rows of prisoners, whispering words of hope. "We are free," she said softly. "Follow me." Carter looked around at the grateful faces. His heart felt heavy and light at the same time. But the battle wasn't over. Suddenly, heavy footsteps thundered from above. The market's leader, a large alien in a dark cloak, appeared, flanked by elite guards. "You think this ends here?" the leader hissed. "You have no idea who you are fighting." Elia stepped forward, energy blade glowing. "We fight for justice, for freedom." Carter raised his pistol. "And we won't stop." The leader laughed cruelly. "Then die." The final fight began. Carter and Elia fought side by side. His steady shots and her swift strikes made them a perfect team. Slowly, they pushed the leader back. The other captives joined the fight, using whatever they could find. Finally, the leader stumbled, defeated. Elia stepped forward. "It is over." The Galactic Authority arrived hours later, responding to the data Carter had sent. They arrested the remaining criminals and freed the market from darkness. Carter, Elia, and the rescued captives stood together, watching as the authorities took control. Zia ran to Carter and hugged his leg. "Thank you," she said softly. Carter smiled and lifted her up. "No one should ever be bought or sold like that. You're safe now." Elia looked at Carter with quiet pride. "You showed your true heart today. The HFY Stories were right." Carter laughed softly. "Maybe. Or maybe we just did what anyone should do." Together, they looked to the future. A future where beings across the galaxy could live free. And with respect, the fight for freedom was won, but the journey had just begun. News of the market's destruction and the rescue of hundreds spread quickly through star systems. The Galactic Authority praised Carter Hale and Elia for their bravery and dedication. But for Carter, the real reward was something far more personal. In the quiet of his workshop, Carter watched as Elia prepared a simple meal. The air smelled faintly of spices from her home planet, Urath. Outside, the twin moons of Durex 9 rose slowly, casting soft silver light across the dusty hills. "Elia," Carter said softly, "what happens now, after all this?" Elia smiled gently. "Now, we build. The Urathi elders have sent a delegation to your colony. They want to meet you." Carter raised an eyebrow. "Me? You helped free many of our people. You showed honor and kindness. That means something." A few days later, the delegation arrived. Tall and elegant, the Urathi elders stood in the center of the colony's main square, surrounded by curious colonists and officials. They wore flowing robes embroidered with ancient symbols, their faces calm and wise. Elia stood beside Carter, her silver-white hair glowing under the bright lights. Zia held her hand tightly, looking nervous but hopeful. One elder, a woman with bright violet eyes, stepped forward. "Carter hail," she said with a respectful nod. "Your actions have brought hope to many. You honor the ancient bond between Urathi and humans." Carter bowed slightly. "I only did what was right." The elder smiled. "You did more. You proved that kindness crosses all stars." The elder's voice was calm but powerful. "We offer a new alliance between Urathi and human colonies. Together we will work for peace, prosperity, and freedom." Murmurs of approval rose from the crowd. Carter glanced at Elia. "What will this alliance mean?" Elia's eyes shone with excitement. "Trade, cultural exchange, shared knowledge. Our people can learn from each other." Zia tugged at Elia's sleeve. "Will I stay here with you?" Elia knelt and hugged her. "Yes, little one, this is your new home." Over the next weeks, life on Durex 9 began to change. Urathi scholars taught their language and history at the colony schools. Human engineers and Urathi technologists worked side by side on new projects. Together, they built better water systems, improved agriculture, and repaired ancient star maps. Carter found himself busier than ever, but happier. Elia's presence was a constant source of warmth and inspiration. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Carter and Elia stood on the edge of the colony overlooking the Red Plains. "I never expected my life to change like this," Carter said. Elia smiled. "Neither did I. But fate brought us together." He reached for her hand, feeling the soft warmth of her skin. "Do you think the stories were true?" he asked. Elia looked up at the stars. "Maybe. But more important is what we do now." Carter nodded. Together. As the first stars appeared in the sky, the colony's flag, a symbol combining human and Urathi emblems, fluttered gently in the night breeze. It was a new beginning, a future built on trust, respect, and hope. And somewhere in the distance, a small blue-skinned girl laughed as she played with other children, free at last.